Give it a couple of seconds there, Alan, see if we have any attendees who want to join. Okay.
Hey, good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order and announce the meeting start time, which is 6:32 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Welcome to the March 6, 2023 special meeting of the Library Commission. This is a hybrid meeting with commissioners, city staff, and members of the public participating in person at the Menlo Park Library in accordance with public health guidelines for in-person meetings and for public participating remotely. Commissioners present include, I'm going to do the roll call. So commissioners present include myself, Alan Cohen. Should I just go around or should I call people's names? Matter?
Doesn't matter, you can just call it.
Good. You want?
Avneet Singh.
Nancy Belakabudi.
Ada Shanreiki.
David Earhart.
Katie Haggerich.
And staff present include Library and Community Services Director.
Sean Reinhardt.
There you go. I kind of like this. Assistant Director of Library,
Nick Schechter.
Library and Community Services Supervisor,
Rose Waldman.
and Librarian 2.
Nora Mercer.
There we go. It's much better this way.
Yes.
Because public participation. Nick is also the staff liaison for the commission. Nick will be helping facilitate the meeting. Nick, will you please take a moment and provide instructions to the commission and members of the public in attendance on how the meeting will proceed?
Thanks, Chair Cohen. For members of the public who are attending virtually and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raised hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For those who are calling in from a landline or cell phone, please press *9 to raise your virtual hand. Members of the public attending remotely who wish to speak, please take a moment to make sure your first and last name are updated on Zoom, or you can provide your name and the spelling as you are called to speak. Public comment will be heard in the order received and is limited to 3 minutes in length. For members of the public attending in person, there are speaker cards available on the table over there. Please complete one and turn it in to myself or another staff member before public comment is called for the item you wish to speak on. If there are a large number of public commenters, the time limit may be adjusted by the chair in order to allow everyone a chance to comment. When your turn for online public comment has arrived, staff will unmute you. With that, I'll return the meeting to Chair Cohen.
Thank you. And before we go on, we just had the final member of the commission just arrive. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Kristen Lee.
Thank you. We'll begin tonight with item C1, presentation on the library collections at the Menlo Park Community Campus. And I believe Supervisor Rose Waldman will be making this first part of the presentation, and Librarian Nora Mercer will make the second part. Please go right ahead.
Hang on a second, Rose. Let me pull up the presentation.
It was fine, that's just fine. Actually, the first part of what I was gonna say is just on the title slide, so I'm just gonna start talking a little bit while we pull up the presentation. So when a new library opens, part of the work that needs to happen is making sure that there are books, and DVDs and magazines and technology available to library patrons when those doors open. Building an opening day collection is different from curating a collection that's been growing with a community for decades. The natural life cycle of library materials is that items are acquired over time, either as the community asks for them or as the librarians decide that they are valuable and relevant. And then also over time, those items either remain in the collection or are removed from the collection as they are deemed outdated, irrelevant, or unpopular. An opening day collection doesn't have time to grow naturally. So a lot more intention has to be put into selecting materials that are enduring as well as popular and that reflect the identity of the community to which they belong. Next slide, please. No, please. What that means for us is that our goal for this collection, for the MPCC library collection, is for Menlo Park residents, especially the residents of the Bellhaven neighborhood, to have priority access to the materials that we select, which must be popular, up-to-date, diverse, educational, informative, inspiring, resourceful, useful, interesting, entertaining, and helpful. And for those materials of that description, to reflect and focus on the interests, needs, culture, and history of Menlo Park and Bellhaven in particular. Next slide, please. Part of determining what our collection is going to look like does involve looking at the space that is going to be at our disposal. The MPCC library is going to have two distinct spaces, upstairs and downstairs. Please advance the slide. There we go. So upstairs, downstairs, we're going to do downstairs first. This is downstairs. Downstairs is going to house the children's materials. There will also be a beautiful patio where we can have programming outdoors. We'll have story time down there. There's also access to the senior lounge, which is just out in the hall and around the corner. And upstairs, we have adult and teen materials. We have technology. We have our hold shelves. There's access to the makerspace. There's access to the teen lounge. There is a large conference room, a smaller tutoring room. Advance, please. So for the downstairs collection, we've got about 160 feet of shelving. That makes for about 3,300-ish children's items. Those items will be comprised of board books, picture books, beginning reader fiction and nonfiction, that's learn to read books, easy reader fiction and nonfiction, chapter books, juvenile fiction, middle grade novels, juvenile nonfiction, and there will be a world language collection. A large percentage of the world language collection will be Spanish, and in fact, we're looking at having the Spanish language materials being about 10% of the materials that are in that room. There will also be our read together kits, our special collections. Advance, please. Upstairs, that's where, as I mentioned, the holds and technology computers will be kept. There will be about 233 feet of shelving upstairs, which you wouldn't think it would make this much of a difference, but the size of the material does make a big difference, because downstairs we've got 160 feet and we can house about 3,300 exactly. Upstairs we got 233 feet and we're looking at about 2,100. So more feet, fewer items. So that's going to be our DVD collection, that not children specific. Teen collections, fiction, nonfiction, graphic novels. Adult collections, fiction, nonfiction, graphic novels. We'll probably also pull out our mystery and science fiction the same way we do here at Maine. But that is to be determined based on what the collection ultimately ends up looking like. There will be a world language collection with, again, an emphasis on Spanish language and magazines and newspapers. I am hoping to house a few of those downstairs in the senior lounge possibly, because I think that will make those materials more accessible to that population. But many of them I think will probably be upstairs as well. So, advanced slide, please. For every one of those areas that I just talked about, those collection areas, not the physical areas, but board books, picture books, juvenile fiction, etc. We're looking at balancing three priorities. The first priority, well, no, not in order of priority, but one is core collection materials, items determined as standard to a public library collection in accordance with our library collection development policy. Two, new popular items, hot off the presses, items that are in demand. Some of these items by necessity will be purchased after the doors open, because high demand items are constantly being published. And three, community driven. And even though this is listed third, it is something that is probably going to be the most important and time consuming aspect of this collection. Because the community driven collection choices are informed by community feedback. These are items that are particularly relevant to the interests, culture, and history of the Bellhaven neighborhood. In order to determine decisions for community-driven aspects of the collection, we are going to be looking at things like last year's community survey, things like the equity and diversity collection development assessment that Nora's going to be talking about. We will be probably looking into some focus groups, some polling. We have to be determined, but this is something that we're focusing on a lot right now, is how we're going to make those choices. Another in a thing that will inform those choices will be direct purchase requests from the community, which again, by necessity, will sometimes happen after the doors are open and community members have had the chance to see what we have and express what they would like to add. My goal is to have about 80% of the total collection purchased before the doors open and about 20% of the total collection purchased after the doors open, in order to keep those materials hot and in accordance with what the community wants. And so, advanced slide, please. We're going to purchase these materials very intentionally with an eye to providing the best possible service to a historically underrepresented part of our community. But that's really only half, or maybe 2/3 of our goals for this collection. The other part of our goals for this collection is to make sure that these materials get into the hands of the community members. As part of the Peninsula Library system, our patrons are able to request items from many libraries in San Mateo County, but that usually does go both ways. At any given time, a number of Menlo Park Library items may be sent out to other libraries in the system. We want to make sure that our beautiful new opening day collection is available for the members of our immediate Bellhaven community who want them to be able to come in and take them off the shelf, not winging their way to other libraries' hold shelves the moment our doors open. This is why the library items housed at MPCC will not be holdable. That is, patrons will not be able to place holds on those items. Any member of the public who has a valid library card may walk into MPCC Library and check out the items that are on the shelf. And Menlo Park residents may still place holds on items from other libraries, including this library we're standing in right now, to be delivered to the MPCC Library. It just means that the items that are in that library can't be put on hold and sent elsewhere. So that's a little bit about our opening day collection plans. Thank you for listening to me this evening. And I don't know if we want to go directly into Nora or into anything else, or if I can take questions. Don?
To the chair, it looks like there may be some questions right out of the gate here.
Yeah, so why don't we take some questions?
All right.
And Nora can do the second hand, please.
So I was just wondering if there's like a length of time that no holds thing will last.
I would imagine so. We bounced around a year. We bounced 6 months. I'm veering more towards a year at this point. So, yeah.
Is that kind of a standard operating procedure when a new library opens in a town, or is that something I think it's a great idea for that community, but I wonder if there's any pushback from the libraries that surround us when we do something like that, or if there's enough copies of all the topical books ordered in general throughout the whole system that isn't really going to impact anyone or ruffle any feathers.
I suspect and hope that the last thing that you said is the correct thing, that there are enough copies in the system. And I believe that there is precedent. I don't think it's, yes, Sean's wants to jump in on this.
Yeah, no, great question. So a couple of things. One is that there is precedent. There's already kind of an item status that exists in the system. I think it's called Quick Picks. Some libraries call it Lucky Day. And it's for that exact reason. The items cannot be placed on hold. The idea is that they're for folks who walk in and can get the item off the shelf. And so there's that. And also the Bellhaven Library collection is can be pretty small.
Yeah.
In the overall picture of all of the millions of materials throughout San Mateo County. So we think the impacts would be negligible at best. For
About,
the other libraries, that is. The
About-
impact for our library will be huge.
yeah,
Because Bellhaven residents will be able to walk into their library and the materials are there. One thing we have seen precedent is when a new library branch opens somewhere in the county and they invest hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars into new materials for that library. And then they all immediately get placed on hold and they're gone for those residents and they walk in and they're like, where are all the books?
Yeah.
Well, they're on hold for people who, place them on hold. So that's what we kind of want to avoid.
And is there anything, sorry, I do have a follow-up question. I always appreciate the fact that there's no fines involved with library books. But it seems like this particular idea of you want to have those books on the shelves for people that walk in because there's no holds. Are you worried at all about timely returns of those or that causing any problems with that?
not particularly. We will be purchasing high demand items pretty much from the time of opening as well. So if an item is in high demand, we will simply buy more copies. I don't see any need to institute, fines are of negligible efficacy.
Right,
So, I'm not particularly concerned about it. I think that if something is hot, we'll buy more of it.
Can I just ask one question? So just so I have a sense of perspective. The number of books between the downstairs and the upstairs for the new building was about 3.
I'm so glad you're asking, because I have this written down.
I figured you did. So I'm just trying, there's 2 basic questions I have. Number one, just so people have a full appreciation for how much more material there will be, how much is currently available in Bellhaven at this stand?
That is the number that I do not have. I'm, but
Well, I can answer that, and it kind of goes back to sort of the limitations or criteria around the project, which is that it's really to only replicate kind of the footprint that currently exists.
Yeah.
And that applies throughout the entire project, because the goal was to have the project not add to the existing environmental impact, which means that the city council was able to declare the project categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, which expedited the construction about
that's
3 or 4 years.
Mhm.
So there's roughly the same amount of square footage, roughly the same amount of shelf space as currently.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
the collection will look different. We're basing the collection much more proportionately on what's here at Maine than what's at Bellhaven, because the Bellhaven Library has historically been a school library as well.
Right.
So the proportions are gonna shift a little bit. So we're talking about 5,400 items total, which is, it's a small footprint. The good news is that items can live over here and get put on hold and be brought over there in a day. So while we are talking in terms of numbers, the children's collection, there will be about 10% of the size that we have here in Maine. The adult collection, there will be about 3% of the size, or adult and teen. About 3% of the size that we have here, but that is one of the reasons that we are being
Right, so even more the reason to.
really paying a lot of
I
attention.
feel I should add to those great statistics that Rose just provided. And to note that this building is about 33,000 square
Right.
feet. And the library space at the new building is about 3,500 square feet, so it tracks.
It-
about within
right, so it's
size.
Almost immediately proportional, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Mhm.
And David, did you have a question?
You, for example, I was trying to imagine the linear shelf space in the existing branch.
Mhm.
It does have a preponderance of sort of school age, you know.
Oh, yes,
Sure,
much
right,
more, yes.
Okay. Not much, that's fine.
Please.
Question, of the 5,000 books, are they all going to be brand new, or will there be some from the existing building?
Brand new.
All brand new.
All brand new. And it's 5,400 items, so some of them will be not books. But yes, all brand.
So I appreciate the presentation. Thanks for doing that. I was wondering if you could just shed a little light on how much of the library collection development policy is informed by educators and schools and curriculum and things like that.
The collection development policy is largely informed, the one that we currently have, has been informed by collection development policies of libraries of commensurate size and population. So
But like within that, I'm just asking a general question. Do all libraries sort of consult with educators, or how are you making the decision on what should be on the shelves?
Sean, if you want to jump in on this, but I can
I'm
take
just
it.
conferring with Nick,
Right.
when the library commission last looked at and reviewed the collection development policy, that it was pre-pandemic. So
2018,
it's probably a good time to bring it back to your next
2019?
meeting and we can do like a deeper dive into it. We
sure.
were planning to do that anyway, but so I didn't quite hear the question specifically.
What, so you're buying 5,000 new books,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be shaped by, I think you said it was like 80-20 or 80-10-10 or something like that, how you broke down how you're gonna select the books, so community likes is gonna be a certain
So-
percentage, and then,
So the selection is going to be done by librarians. Some of that selection might be done by librarians working at the vendor, and some of that selection might be done by librarians working here. Those librarians will be using resources, selection resources that are typical of our trade, such as book list, library journal, school library journal. So yes, informed by educators. We will be, so those are going to inform aspects of the collection. And then when it comes to dealing with these materials that are community driven, that's where we're going to bring in the voices from our community itself. So am I covering enough?
Yeah, sure. So like a specific example would be, Beechwood Schools right there. And so they may have a particular curriculum where they're gonna focus on like a certain topic. And, if they reach out to us or vice versa, we're kind of aware of that, we'd want to make sure there's enough of those materials for the kids at that school.
Yeah.
So it's, a lot of that is a little bit more conversation driven. And then we pretty much have a standing policy that if a member of the community wants an item, we don't currently own it, it's a reasonable cost and we can get it, we just buy it. So we kind of have both going on between that crowdsourcing, but then also just working directly with schools.
that's great. And just a slight follow-up, which is you mentioned that 10% of the content is gonna be in Spanish.
For the children's collection, we are hoping for approximately 10% of the materials to be in Spanish.
And is that a reflection of the community? Because you also emphasize that a lot of this should be a reflection of the community.
Yes.
Is that sort of corresponding to a population issue, or is that, like, how are you determining 10% this? And is the balance of it English?
So the way that we got the percentages that we're using is originally we ran the numbers for what percentages make up this collection. And then we took a look and adjusted those percentages based on our knowledge of our community, and what we are hoping to see from this collection. So saying, oh, well, maybe we're going to need more of this, maybe we're going to need less of this. Off the top of my head, I do not have the numbers for the percentage of the population in the Bellhaven neighborhood that is Spanish speaking. I'm pretty sure it's more than 10%.
I can guarantee it's more than. Based on my wife was. Redistricting commissioner and
Yes.
look at that, so.
So the choice to have that, this is what we're going with right now. If we might make different percentage choices as we go forward. But right now, that's what we're thinking is reasonable.
Yeah, I'd say that the collection is a growing thing and it changes over the years. The collection here at the main library has changed over the 30 years that I've been here as different people come in and use the library differently. We adapt the collection to meet those needs. So if we open up and we don't have enough of something, we'll find out pretty quickly and shift
Yeah.
to make those things available.
How do you
Thanks.
measure, sorry,
No,
like, how do you measure, how do you think about measuring the success of the catalog? So, is it like the percentage of books that are checked out? Is it about the community input? How do you think about
Yes,
how
and yes.
that full launch looks like and what your expectations or hopes would be for it?
Yes, we do we regularly, every month we run circulation statistics. So in general, I think what percentage of the collection is checked out at any given time?
It's at
would you
least
say?
30.
At least 30, yeah, that's.
And often it's more. So if it ever all came back.
Right, right. Yeah, if it ever all came back, it would be, oh. So we do expect to see at least that. These circulation statistics at the Bellhaven Branch Library are nowhere near the circulation statistics here proportionately in terms of size of collection. That's partially because there's not as much foot traffic in that area. It's partially because we need to do more outreach in that area. I think that opening a beautiful new building and drawing people in with all of the many services that we're offering there should lead to very high foot traffic. In terms of, so that's quantitative. In terms of qualitative, I would hope to be seeing positive feedback. We are fortunate to have a very vocal and largely supportive community who let us know when they're happy, and they also let us know when they're not happy. So I do think that there will be an ability to measure success based on comments that are said and written down. Would either of you like to chime in on that?
I think that's a good explanation. It's a great question as well. The only thing I would add to that is, and I think you already covered it, but circulation statistics tell one side of the story. If the item's getting checked out, clearly people like it. But there are also items that people are maybe looking at and they don't necessarily check it out, or people want an item to be there even if it's not being checked out a lot because it's like a classic. And then there's this other issue that if the item's not there in the first place, then it's not going to get checked out. So I think that gets to that second point of listening to what community members, want, what they're asking, but also doing some research as well. Like, what do we think is going to resonate with our community and their needs? And so, like, for example, we know that the current Bellhaven Library is way too heavily focused on school age material.
Oh, yeah.
There's not enough there for kind of the adult audience. We've heard that again and again. So that's where in the new facility, we're definitely going to rebalance that. So, it, like Will was saying, it's that combination of quantitative and qualitative feedback.
Super helpful, thank you.
Just for point of reference, based on the last census, it was about 50%
Mhm.
or more.
Yeah.
Spending.
Yeah. And so that's a conversation that would need to be had if we want to increase that percentage of the collection.
Yeah, and I'll say, this conversation is is the beginning of that, right? That's why we're having this presentation now. We haven't bought any books or other
Yep.
materials yet we're preparing to. And so like, this is an excellent bit of feedback right here that maybe we want to immediately start kind of just making sure that we've got that percentage of languages other than English, where it needs to be.
Terrific. So if there are no other comments from the commission, I think we were gonna have Nora come up and thank you. For doing the first half. That was great.
Thank you.
I think Nora's gonna finish up the second half of this presentation, is that right?
Yeah, that's great.
So while Nick's getting that up, I'll start us off. I'm gonna be talking about we did a collection diversity audit. About a year ago, it was last June, so it's been a little while. We did this through a company called Ingram, which is one of our vendors that we purchase materials through. And a service that they have called iCurate. This service offers a number of tools to libraries to help with collection development and management, including this diversity audit service that we contracted out through them. The purpose of running this audit was to determine the level of diversity in our core library collection, to ensure that it is reflective of the community that we're serving and of the United States population as a whole. This particular audit compared our numbers to the average of every other public library that has used this particular service, which includes libraries of all sizes, from the very small all the way up to the New York Public Library. This allowed to let us see our results sort of in context of the larger public library community. It also serves to identify areas where our collection is very diverse, as well as areas where maybe we could use a little bit of improvement. Librarians can then take this information into consideration as we make our purchasing decisions going forward. Ultimately, we would like to perform a second diversity audit in a year, 2 or 3 years, a year or two from now, since the first one was performed, to see whether or not we've made the changes that we wanted to make and what we can do to get those changes made if we haven't. Next slide, please. So because we contracted out this service, we could only assess our collection based on Ingram's proprietary processes and procedures. So this audit, there are some limits to this particular audit that we did. For one, they looked at print books only and English language print books only. So we got only a very small snapshot of our overall collection, but the idea is that even though we're looking at only print books in English, that would be hopefully representative of our entire collection. So DVDs, books on CD, music CDs, etc. How this worked was basically that we provided them with a list of ISBN numbers of all the books in our collection.
An ISBN number stands for International Standardized Book Numbering. It's like not the barcode, but close to it, and every
Yeah.
book has one.
Every book has a unique number. Not just every title, but like every different edition has a different unique identifiers. It's a lot. And then using those ISBNs of those books that we gave them, they divided those titles into one or more of 11 diversity categories that they had predetermined. Those categories are Asian, Black, Indigenous, Jewish, Latinx, LGBTQIA, mental health, Middle Eastern, multicultural, Muslim, and neuro and physical diversity. Books can be counted in multiple categories if they are of interest to multiple of those categories. So they can be counted twice when viewing the breakdown that we'll look at later. And they are placed in these categories based on interest and content rather than author identification, which can often be difficult to determine, especially with regards to mental health, LGBTQIA, those types of identities. There is exception to that rule for authors who are well known as being that identity, such as Amy Tan, Toni Morrison, those kinds of authors. And all of the information that they use to determine whether or not a book applies to any one of those categories comes from a proprietary database that is maintained by collection development librarians. Next slide. So I'm gonna look at this for only a second. There's a lot. But I wanted to show you this so that you have just an idea of how granular the information we got back from this was. So across the top of this chart here, you can see all of those different categories. And then they have broken down exactly how many items we have in each of those categories, broken down by subject, by reading level, by age. So we know not just how many books we have, but exactly where they are in our collection. Next slide. In total, they surveyed 50,151 items in our collection. That's again, unique ISBN numbers. So that's not counting duplicate copies of the same book, but it could be counting different editions of a book. That broke down to about 25,000 in our adult collection, 20,000 in our children's, and just under 4,000 in teens. In total, they found 7,769 diverse items, which makes up 15% of our total English language print collection. So the pie chart on the left there shows our collection with 15% diverse and 85% other. And on the right there is the average public library, which has only 13% diverse items. So we're a little bit above average. Next slide, please. Here's a chart that breaks it down by category. And this is our total collection. Ours is in blue and the public library average is in green. So again, you can see we're a little bit above average in most categories, but there's a couple that we are lagging in. What I like about the comparison to the public libraries is that it gives us context. Obviously, you can see some of these have much more than others, even in the average. This is partially a reflection of publishing trends, just what's available to purchase. There's a lot more Black interest books being published than there are Indigenous interest, for example, those two sitting right next to each other there. It also helps us.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. As the adult collection, it looks largely the same as we would expect. It is sort of the majority of the collection. So our collection is above average in most of these categories, with the exception of Black and Indigenous. So things to keep in mind as we're going forward in purchasing, and also given what you mentioned earlier about the proportion of Spanish speaking, I feel like we would probably want our Latinx interest books percentage to be higher than that. Even though we are above average, if you look at how above average we are in Asian at the top there, and how above average we are in Latinx, I think we'd like to see that represented in a similar fashion.
So, sorry, what is the balance of the 85%? Is that like Caucasian culture? What's the?
That would, yeah, it's 85% would be books that don't fall into any of those 11 categories. Which does sort of boil down to Caucasian and Christian.
Although,
But
just
it
to
also-
be comprehensive, there may be some topics like math that don't really
Yeah,
have any
but yeah,
particular
if you,
cultural relevance.
Or like if you're looking at wildlife or nature or something.
Science, math.
yeah, so if we went back to that big blue chart, which I won't make you look at, but you can look at the breakdown and you'll see that in Dewey range 00, which is technical books, there's like 2 items, but it's, you know, those are the programming books and the, you know,
Right, and a lot of reference books, I imagine.
and a lot of
also
reference
will
books,
sort of
yeah.
fall in that
So just
category.
stuff that's not specifically related to any of those as well.
It does treat white as the default.
It does. Looking at our children's collection, you can see, it's quite different. You see that multicultural go way up. This is all of those picture books about like diversity in general, or with the ethnically ambiguous main character. Next slide. And then the teen collection with an absolutely wild percentage of LGBTQIA, which is very reflective of current publishing trends. As well as I think the fact that we live in an area where we're allowed to put those things in our public library without too much public outcry. That's it. To wrap it up overall, this collection, this audit showed us that we're doing pretty good on average. There's certainly some areas where we could use improvement to meet that public library average, and areas where, based on our own demographics in our area, we would like to see some improvement, namely Latinx interest. We're a little below average in Black and Indigenous. And those areas where there's just not a lot available, we were able to see that even though we're above average, we're still pretty low. Maybe we want to make a more concerted effort to look for those items. For example, Muslim interest was one of those very low categories. Since getting the results of the audit nearly a year ago now, myself and the other collection development librarians have taken this into account when making our purchases. If I was like on the fence about something, but then I remembered, oh wait, this is a place where we need more diversity in our collection, that could be the vote that brought it over. And again, we're hoping to repeat this audit possibly later this year or next year, now that we've had some time to work with those numbers and see what our collection looks like from that top-down view, to see if we've made those improvements that we wanted to.
Right. That was great. Well, Nora, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Rose, thank you both. Really nice job. Staff liaison. Do we have any public comment on this item?
This time, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please notify the staff here in the room. Or if you're on Zoom, by using that raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, you can use *9 to engage the raise hand function. See no comment here in the room. We'll just give our attendees online a second to raise their hands if they would like to make a comment on this item. And seeing no comment online, back to you, Chair Cohen.
Okay, and so I just wanted to reopen it up. If anybody on the Library Commission had any other questions or comments, please.
I guess I'm curious, and I've got to do math in my head very well, but it looks like fiction is a particular area where it's disproportionately more underrepresented, both in the adult fiction.
Ma'am, do you mind if I come back there and take a look at what you're looking at?
So I'm looking at blue, I'm looking at the blue slide.
We'll put it on the
I'm
screen.
looking- yeah, looking at- sorry, I got the slide, your presentation. But it's really just,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just, the broad sort of demographics for one thing, but it seems like in terms of a,
Specifically where those items are.
exactly,
Yeah.
it looks like fiction is a particularly
Fiction is a little underrepresented. I think if you look at, right.
8,600 versus 1,500 for adult fiction, and then 17,700 versus 2,800.
Yeah.
That's a much
Yeah.
different viewing than these other things we're looking at.
Yeah, I think this is a place where we're seeing a representation of publishing trends. Historically, there have been a lot more straight, white, male, Christian books published in fiction. That's certainly changing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna comment. I feel like that,
Yeah.
there was a thing that we focused on changing the proportion there.
Mhm.
The rest of it's gonna kind of follow because
Yeah.
it's dominated by sort of into two buckets.
fiction is certainly the largest area of there's fiction, and then nonfiction is broken out here into the
Yeah.
movies. But adult fiction and adult nonfiction are very large portions of the library collection. And yes, we're looking at everything that the library, that, when I was saying a collection that has grown with its community over decades, we're looking at everything that we've had on the shelves and everything that we've been adding. It would be interesting to see this broken out in terms of ISBNs by acquisition date over time.
Right, so it probably changed over the years.
Right, that's what I would be interested in, is seeing that as well. And we did, this report came with many breakdowns. Every single one of these categories got a pie chart
Yeah,
and a graph. It was lovely. So I wish that we could sort of look at that to delve more deeply into this.
Yeah.
But yes,
I was wondering when you were showing us this and you were comparing the way they looked at our library versus the public library and they're using the ISBN codes. Do they also provide you with the statistics that compare your library to what the publishing trends are or what the materials currently
amazing.
available are, so that you understand if you are meeting the same levels of what's being published by the major?
they did
publishing
not,
houses?
they did provide us with purchasing recommendation lists. They are a book vendor, they do want us to buy books
Oh, yeah.
from them. And so
Yeah,
I will say
yeah.
that these came with a list in every single one of those categories and in every single one of those age groups of books that were not in our collection that they recommended we consider buying. So there was some, so it's not like a, here's what's being published versus here's what you have, but it did give an idea of sort of,
So is there I mean, this sounds totally fine. I'm not suspicious of it, but is there someone who does the same type of stuff to provide you the access to everything that's being published that doesn't have a angle of wanting? I mean, is there a Consumer Reports type vendor, provider of this information where you're not getting it from the salesperson?
I don't know if there's anything out there that's aggregating all of the publishing information, possibly.
Yeah.
I think a lot, there are organizations, ALA might be a place that's collecting these statistics.
But you maybe have no reason to doubt the accuracy of any of this.
We definitely,
I think
I mean,
it's a
it's
good
different things.
suggestion.
I'm talking
though.
apples and oranges, I know.
No, you're not. I think it's a good suggestion. It's a good research question for us
Absolutely.
librarians is, does the American Library Association or Library Journal have a recent sort of publishing wide audit of this type? I think
Yeah.
it's a good question that, to be honest, I don't know. We
don't know, we should find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand that what the percentage of things being made available to libraries to purchase, like say in 1970 or 1980 or even 2000,
10 years.
is
ago.
going to be very different
Yes.
than what it is now.
Oh, it's dramatically different. yes.
And so it makes sense that we would be maybe buying skewed percentages of this to balance out the old stuff, but I just am really interested to know how what's out in the world in general is different than what's being provided by this vendor,
Right.
yeah.
We do use more than one vendor. I will say, based on the work that we've seen out of Ingram, we were suspect of this. We initially went, well, what's your secret sauce? Who are these libraries that you're in? They're proprietary about these things. This is a tool. And we found it useful. It was also a reasonably priced tool for the product that it delivered. It was, they're like, well, yeah, let's do this. It won't hurt. But it's one tool. And what you're leading into is, what else can we use? Which is a great question.
And I'm also curious when it says the public library, like, I would imagine that a public library in San Francisco is gonna have a very different
Yes,
That's what,
books than say a public library in somewhere in Florida.
yeah. So what
So,
their public library was an average of
Mhm.
every other library that had used this service.
So across the country.
across the country.
But it
Yeah,
may have been self-selecting for libraries that were interested in auditing the diversity. of the
Absolutely.
collection.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so may have been more diverse.
so it may actually be
then
skewed
maybe,
to be,
yeah.
yeah, it may actually
So
be skewed
it's
to
of
more
public
diverse.
libraries that have used that service, not,
Including New York Public.
got it.
Yeah,
but yeah.
And our understanding
Okay.
of that self-selecting is that typically would be libraries in urban centers that would, you know, be attentive to this and wanting to look at this. Now, don't quote me on that. I think we should go and pull the list, but that was our sense when
Oh,
looking at this.
yeah,
But-
they
Yes.
would provide us.
So that average is pretty good because it's kind of comparable to our situation, which we're in an urban center. You know, we're attuned to diversity, so these are, you know, pretty good here libraries for that purpose of comparing.
Yeah, I will say they would not provide us with a list. We asked
Okay.
of all of the libraries that had done this before.
They'll say New York
that's-
Public, they'll tell New York
They will
Public,
tell
and
New
other
York
than that, it's the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, that's a
business model.
It's also
Yeah.
proprietary in terms of, I don't know that those libraries necessarily, it's a matter of, well, they've paid for this service.
Right.
They may not cover.
So, yeah, this is one of the sort of asterisks, this is a tool, here are the caveats.
Mhm.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a good data point.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
useful. It's like a benchmark, but then you're applying logic and reason to say like, well, our population looks different than any assumption. It would be really helpful if they even had a cut of libraries of a certain circulation
The
size,
first thing we ask.
or libraries in California, and then it would be more compelling.
Yeah.
Right, we're benchmarking to something a little closer to.
Yeah.
us.
The thing I am curious about though is, so as a library user, I have really shifted and leaned into like Libby and Overdrive and
Yeah.
like all the ebooks.
Yeah.
This, it sounds like this does not
This is physical.
have anything to do with that, which is, you know, I don't know what the usage patterns are of like
Ebooks are
online.
so much harder to quantify.
Mm,
We can, because the different ebook vendors sell us their products differently. We can get some statistics from Overdrive, which sells us items, so digital items. Getting statistics from Hoopla, for example, I think we can probably pull checkouts.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. It's harder to get those stats.
yeah, I think that was sort of where I was curious about, because there's sort of a big chunk of data missing, which is
Yeah,
I don't know the relative library use of online patrons relative to physical patrons. But, you know, maybe the other gap there is in this online group, are they seeing the representation or the catalog they're hoping for and, you know, question mark.
Yeah, and there's also far less opportunity with the typical e-reader apps to provide that feedback in app.
That makes sense.
Of our 3 e-reader platforms, only one of them provides the opportunity to suggest a purchase
in the app.
in the app. Anyone can suggest that we get something outside of the app on our webpage.
If I could, because I think these are great questions, it does kind of sound like the commission sees some value in conducting audits like this. And that perhaps we should continue to look for other tools that maybe you're looking at the ebooks or just other areas of the collection or with different benchmarking. It sounds like there's interest in it. We're certainly interested in it because it helps us make our collection the best it
Yeah.
can be. So, I mean, that's just good feedback in and of itself to, you know, kind of keep going down this road and see what else we can find out there.
Yeah, and it sounds like we have another opportunity, once the new library opens. 6 months or 12 months into it, to start getting live feedback, and you'll also be able to look at, you know, if we buy it, will they come,
Yeah.
right? So you'll have utilization on at least the print materials.
Mhm.
So that'll give you a good sense as to,
Yeah,
if there's a lot of utilization on a very small slice, perhaps we need a bigger slice than a small slice.
exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this would be great. I think the community would probably like to be periodically updated on this, and I think we're just a representative of that. The community at large. So, yeah, this is great. It's great work. Got to start somewhere. This
I
was
think
very informative. Please.
There's a way for us to, I don't know if we can, like, it's an interactive, if you can take what you've learned from it and then apply it to our collection, but like, I'd love to know what those same percentages are of the materials that are being checked out of our library.
That's,
You know, is that something that we can do with that? Because I'd be really interested to see how these different categories are being used by our community.
so one of the reasons that this was a tool that we jumped at is that the librarians on the vendor end were doing the work of tagging the materials.
And then you
Doing
can
a
add
full
that to our
in-house-
collection.
No,
No,
we don't have any of that information.
so that's the information that they have. That's
They
what's
have-
valuable.
They have built a proprietary database of so many books.
So you have a book, it's tagged with subject headings.
Mhm.
Right.
And each subject heading will say something like, this is Latinx interest, this is Jewish interest, this is, ability, disability. And subject headings are very widely that we do use standard records. So there are MARC records, metadata records that we use. The work that they've been doing on the vendor end is doing the in-depth research and creating essentially their own database. We may not have the same tags on our material.
So how do we grow our understanding of what what materials in our library are actually in demand, being used or being ignored, and maybe aren't the wisest purchases, other than we just want to have an offering of diversity?
That's a great question. We can absolutely look at circulation statistics, and we can look at those titles that we may know. But it is much, and we can run searches for the tags that are in that system already. But it's not going to be nearly as comprehensive, because frankly, it would be a massive project to try and tag every single record with all of.
One of the
Those
reasons
subject
we
matters.
contracted this out is because of the amount of work it would take.
It would
Yeah.
take much time and a lot of work.
But if you're
No, that's-
interested, I'm sorry, Sean, if you're interested, Commissioner Hadrovich, in like. We can run reports of, say, books added in the last 3 months that have circulated 0, 1 or 2 times. So basically, you can pretty quickly run searches for things that are kind of dead on arrival. Is what I would call them. It's like we bought it and then it just sat there. So we run those checks to sort of see if we are buying stuff and if we're in tune. So you can look at from a positive use end and going, yes, more of this, but you can also look at it from, no, don't buy more of this because people aren't using it. But, you know, it's a little bit shaded because sometimes there are things that you want to have on hand for people to come in and discover. And so circulation statistics aren't always the be all and end all of whether an item or a book is.
In fact, a lot of the time, that's what will happen is we buy diverse titles and then they may not circulate in the first year. They may circulate once or twice in the first year. It's then up to us as information professionals to make the decision to keep that material around because we feel that's valuable for our community.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you know, I mean, there's always some budget constraints to everything. So that's where I'm just thinking, I value having materials that reflect what we want to reflect and also provide what we want to provide, even if they're not being used rapidly. I wonder how much of it is, you know, also we look at outside of our community, placing holds on things. And then I've always appreciated the policy of if someone asks for a book, we get it. So I know because we have a generosity in that way, we're just wanting to make smart decisions. And so the questions I ask just leak from those things, but not to eat up too much time on it.
I think we put in that same bucket though, of there's clearly a lot of interest. I think on the staff side, we have a lot of interest in this data. The commission has a lot of interest. So I think, you know, we'll kind of explore, maybe there are ways to cross tab like this diversity audit information with, specific circulation stats in our collection. We don't know yet, but it gives us. a
Well, we
sense of-
see
let's see what we
technology
can find.
show up all the time that transforms our lives, right? And so
It could-
something
it
that
could be
seems
fun.
daunting right now, tomorrow someone may invent a technology that we're gonna,
It could be a
yeah.
question of, but for the right fee. The vendor will give us that information. So it could be that simple. So that's where we would start.
I mean, there's certainly a price on anything. You can have
well, when
people
you're,
do
when
it
you're
in-house.
talking, and all of this to me goes together because your presentation tonight and talking about building the new libraries, all new books for the new library, and I assume we're gonna hear at some point tonight or in the future about how you're gonna have focus groups or different community engagement. And, it's all, what do we got, about a year before that library is gonna open. So all of this is time well spent talking about how do we get it right when you're buying that collection of books. So thank you for listening to my questions.
Well, that was great. If there's no other questions, Nora, Rose, thank you. That was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help. And if I'm reading the agenda right, we're on the regular business section B. So under regular business, the Library Commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require Library Commission approval. Nick, do we have any public comment on this item, which is, I guess, our
This item is D1, approving the minutes from the September 19th, 2022 meeting. And if at this time you would like to make a public comment on this item, please notify the staff liaison. If you're listening in virtually by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, you can use *9 to engage the raise hand function. And if there are any members of the public present, bring one of the comment cards over to the staff table. Pause just a moment. There are no public comments in person. And there are no public comments online.
Nick, is it possible that the screen that we're looking at, we see that there's 4 participants, but we're not actually able to see who they are.
Yeah, there's one of
The
those.
rest of you, but I'd love to be able to just see this screen while we're talking. Is that possible?
It gets a little busy, but yeah, we can pop it up every once in a while.
Well, at home, it would be over in the
You're
corner,
right.
so
I
I,
can put it over on the side, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's a way to make it always visible.
I think if you go to the view in the upper right.
Yeah.
And then do exit full screen.
it may just be me, but I'm always
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
interested in who, how many people are actually the public versus.
So,
Yeah,
you can see,
perfect. Okay, thank you.
although, probably collapse that.
That's okay.
So no public comment, Jack.
Okay, great. So would a commissioner like to make a motion to approve the minutes from 6 months ago?
I'll make that motion.
And do we have a second?
I'm happy to second it.
I'm gonna use the gavel even though I think it's accepted. Oh,
So now we need to take a roll call vote on approving the minutes from September 19th. 2022. I've been informed that I'm supposed to go in alphabetical order, so here we go. With the chair last, so Commissioner Earhart, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadrovich, how do you vote?
Yes,
Commissioner Recky, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Commissioner Singh, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Velagapudi, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Chair Cohen, how do you vote?
yes.
And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay. If I'm reading the agenda, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, the motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Lee not present.
Sorry. So our next item is item D3. Next item is discussing changes to the format of advisory body meetings and attendance requirements under state assembly.
Chair Cohen, I think you skipped item D2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I jump? Oh, yeah, I did. I'm sorry. My apologies. No, wait a minute. No, we're okay.
D2 is, it's D2, it's establishing a procedure for the
Oh,
annual
okay.
selection of chair and. vice
Right,
chair.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So establishing a procedure for annual selection of chair and vice chair. Nick, do we have any public comment on this item?
This time, if you'd like to make a public comment on item D2, if you're attending virtually, raise that virtual hand by pressing the button on your Zoom screen, or if you're dialing in, press *9. If you're here in person, please bring a comment card up to the staff. No comments in person. And I see no comments online.
Okay, and would a commissioner like to make a motion to establish a procedure for the annual selection of the chair and the vice chair?
Well, should we talk about it a little? I thought, I read the report. I'm assuming everyone else did too. It seemed to me, having been on the commission for about 4 or 5 years, that the idea that we would do this the same way that they elect the mayor and the vice mayor makes a lot of sense and doesn't leave us sort of awkwardly guessing who might want to do it or not. Newer members of the commission might not know who's already served as chair or vice chair in the past.
Right.
And certainly, I'm sure there's maybe sometimes where people know they're next in line, but they might not want to do it. But I think just in general, I thought that was a really smart idea to use this protocol for taking some of the awkward guesswork out of who wants to be nominated and who doesn't. So
Yeah, if I may, Chair Cohen and Commissioner Hadrovich, it's basically setting up a sort of rotation so you know what to expect. For instance, we have a chair and a vice chair now, it's Chair Cohen and Vice Chair Singh. So the commission would still have the opportunity to vote on chair and vice chair, so we're not taking that power away from you if for some reason it didn't work out the way in the rotation, you could still vote a different person in as chair or vice chair. I just think it sort of puts some predictability into the process.
I also did wonder, Nick, if you're sort of keeping track of this stuff so that maybe, like, I think it's in May, we do this, we always assume that any of the openings are going to be filled and it's not going to be extended by the city as it has been in the past. But would that mean that maybe in April, staff would give us a heads up of who should be next in line for these positions? Just given the protocol that is listed here, and then those people have time between April and May to sort of say, yeah, that sounds good to me, or wait a second, I might not be able to do that, and then we can have a little bit of a more informed discussion.
I think that's
Does
an
that make
excellent,
sense to
I think
everybody?
that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I just another piece of information, the Parks and Recreation Commission emulated the same model. I think a couple months ago, they decided to do it as well, because it takes a lot of the guesswork out. And yeah,
So any other thoughts and comments? Okay, no.
I would move to approve this procedure.
And do we have a second for the stated motion?
A second.
Here you go. So here you go, Nick.
All right, I get to practice my roll call vote again. So, Commissioner Earhart, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadrovich, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Leap, how do you vote?
I abstain due to absence.
Commissioner Reiki, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Singh, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Velagapudi, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Chair Cohen, how do you vote?
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0-1 with Commissioner Leap abstaining. Thank you.
Okay, so now is E3. Our next item is discussing changes to the format of advisory body meetings and attendance requirements under State Assembly Bill 2449. I believe Nick, the Assistant Library Services Director, will be making a presentation on this.
Thank you, Chair Cohen. They saved all the really exciting presentations for me.
You would enliven them with your
Thank you
presentation.
all. So, this is a presentation about the new requirements under a state assembly bill. Let's see if I can get this full screen here. There we go. Assembly Bill 2449. So, as you know, over the pandemic, the state of California passed, allowed some changes to the Brown Act, the act that governs attendance and requirements for public meetings. So beginning at the beginning of this month, that procedure has changed per the new Assembly Bill 2449. The city of Menlo Park is going to continue teleconference components for the public for all of these meetings because that frankly has been wildly successful. The members of the public really like to have the option of attending virtually. So this slide just has some terms here as I go forward of what we mean by teleconference and legislative bodies. So according to the new AB 2449, all legislative body members need to appear in person unless one, it says on, but it should be one of the following is met. There are traditional Brown Act requirements for attending virtually, and there are two new conditions, the just cause condition and the emergency circumstances condition. I'll talk about those in just a second. Public participation virtually is not going to be affected. So traditional Brown Act requirements, you have to have a quorum of the body present in person. That means 4 of our 7 commissioners need to be in person. You have to have the address of the remote participation site on the agenda when it's published. That physical agenda has to be posted on the door of the remote location where the commissioner or legislative body member is appearing. And most importantly, members of the public must be allowed into the location where the remote participation is occurring. This is for the traditional Brown Act requirements, and that does include the home of a participating member. So you can see that there are positives and negatives for that one. AB 2449 just cause, quorum must be present in person. It can be used up to 2 meetings per calendar year. And just cause means child care or caregiving of a child, parent, grandparent, grandchild, sibling, spouse, or domestic partner that requires a member to participate remotely. Contagious illness that prevents a member from attending in person, a need related to a physical or mental disability, or travel, but only travel while on the business of the legislative body to another state or local agency. So that means travel on library business that causes you to miss a meeting. In order to use the just cause in-person quorum, you need to notify the body at your earliest possible opportunity. And that could be as late as the start of the meeting. And then you need to provide a general description during the meeting of the circumstances related to one of the 4 items above. In other words, childcare, illness, disability, travel. You would not need to disclose any personal medical information. The next condition for AB 2449, which is new, is emergency circumstances. Can be used up to 20% of a body's meetings per year, cannot exceed 3 consecutive meetings. So for our monthly meetings, 20% is 2 meetings. And emergency circumstances are physical or family medical emergency that prevents a legislative body member from attending in person. And then here's how you use emergency circumstances. The remote legislative body must request them to participate remotely because of emergency circumstance. They then must provide a general description of the circumstances relating to the need to appear remotely, 20 words or less, and not disclosing any personal medical information. For the emergency circumstances, this is sort of odd, but I'm sure there's a reason why this was written this way. But the remote body member must also disclose whether any other people over 18 years old are present in the room and the general nature of the legislative body member's relationship with that individual. Then the body must vote to add the emergency circumstance to the agenda. And then if approved, the body must vote to approve the legislative body member's participation. So you have to do those steps before the commencement of the meeting. So
So does that mean that if we vote no, then they leave, they're not in? But
that's,
if we
that's
vote
correct.
yes, they can stay.
Right, you would have to add it, vote to add it to the agenda to consider, and then at the beginning of the meeting, vote to allow that emergency circumstance to proceed.
So just be clear, there's two votes that would occur.
That's correct.
And then, I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask a question because it
It's
seems
all right.
so goofy to me. So, I mean, I understand it, but do we need to have a quorum without that person? Or if, like, we can look at it and say, we need a quorum, we need you here for the quorum, so we're gonna approve you to stay.
That's a very good question, and that's a very good point to make. In all of these cases, Brown Act, AB 2449, Just Cause, and AB 2449, Emergency Circumstances, you need an in-person quorum.
So that person doesn't,
Does not affect the quorum.
got it.
Right,
Okay.
so you don't put you're not put in that circumstance.
Yeah,
You-
I mean, I'm thinking
scenario.
if somebody called in because they're in an emergency situation, we don't want to make them stay. But we might make them stay if we needed them for a quorum, but
But-
here you're saying,
It
That
is,
doesn't
it is
even
not, it
apply,
does not
so-
affect the quorum. That's correct.
But, you know, members do have the option to just be absent if they can't attend the meeting as well. Now, there's per city council policy, you know, a certain number of absences accumulates could result in, you know, being removed from the commission. But I think maybe the assumption is that if the member wants to participate under just cause or emergency circumstances, because they want to participate
Right.
and feel that they can virtually. But you know, if even that's too much, you know, folks, you know, like intervenes, you know, just maybe take the absence, I would think in those situations.
especially, so we have to have the quorum here, and then
Yes.
all of that is. just-
Correct. That's correct.
Got it.
So a couple of additional rules for remote attendance. So remote members must participate through both visual and audio, so camera and mic engaged. And then the roll call voting that we got pretty used to during the pandemic when we were doing virtual meetings is sort of codified here, that we do the roll call vote in alphabetical order. That's why I made sure I was doing it that way tonight with the presiding officer last. Legislative body members can vote yes, no, abstain, or pass, which I didn't know, so I should have been reading my
What's
Robert's
the
Rules of
pass?
Orders. The pass means that we skip that member in the alphabetical order, but we have to come back to that member at the end of the voting. So I guess that there could
Yeah.
be some,
I can explain that, I think, in part, that's because, for example, like city councils. They would typically vote by pushing a button, so that everyone's casting their vote simultaneously. And that's advantageous in many situations, because, you know, everyone's casting the vote at the same time. Whereas with the alphabetical roll call, you know, the same members are always the first to vote. And I've even heard some elected officials express frustration with that, because especially when it's a difficult issue, they have to be the first ones to cast their vote without kind of understanding where their colleagues are. So that's where that comes from, I think, because I've never heard of pass before either until this came up.
so that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions now. We can take public comment and then we can bring it back to the commission for discussion.
So is there any public comment on this item, Nick?
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item and you're attending virtually, please notify the staff liaison by using that raise hand function at the bottom of the Zoom screen, *9 if you're dialing in. There's no in-person public comment here. Our online attendees
So then let's open it up. Does anybody on the
and no
commission
comment from our online. attendees.
have any other comments or questions? Hearing none,
I was gonna clarify. So for the Brown Act one,
The library will be closed in 10 minutes. If you're
Ignore the
working on a
voice.
laptop, please put
There's
it
nothing
on your work and shutting down.
Well, it's true, but
Restrooms
you're
are
special.
now locked.
so for the Brown Act one, you don't have to have a reason. You have to have the notification, you have to have the posting, right? The other
That's
two are actually, there's a circumstance that's maybe dictating.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
So they're all additive, but they're all ands. You have, it's one of these three things dictates whether you're not gonna be present.
Yeah, I think the big distinction between the traditional Brown Act and the just cause and emergency ones is the noticing at your physical location
And them coming to
and
them.
letting people come in.
Yeah.
And I think the idea is, if you were absent, let's do a hypothetical. If a legislative body member was absent because they had contracted COVID, say. You would not necessarily want to invite the public into your house for that, right? So.
Yeah.
Which is required under the traditional Brown Act. For remote attendance.
Well, there you go. Any other input? Okay. So I think we're on E, informational items. Informational items are transmitted to the Library Commission in staff's effort to provide an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items, however, a commissioner, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question of any of the informational items. I believe we have E1, the revised library use guidelines. And Nick, I believe it's you or someone will be providing a brief introduction of this item.
I can do a brief intro, from time to time,
Sorry.
we have a need to update the use guidelines. Typically, when we, encounter a situation where it seems clear that we need to kind of clarify the language, or, make sure that the policy is very clear for use of the library. And so, since the last Library Commission review, around a year ago, we've had to make a couple of those tweaks. And so we're just bringing them, this is our first opportunity to kind of bring them back, just so the commission has the opportunity to review, comment on them. And I think Nick can pull them up on the screen if you want to refer to specific ones, but that's basically what the status for.
Okay, very good. So Nick, do we have any public comment on this posted item?
If at this time, any member of the public, either in person or appearing virtually, would like to make a public comment on item E1, revised library use guidelines, please use that raise hand function virtually at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Or *9 if you're dialing in person, please bring a comment card up to the staff table. Seeing no comment, Chair Cohen, back to you.
Okay, so let's open it up. Does anybody on the Library Commission have any questions or comments?
I have a couple questions, little questions, not really big, but first of all, I appreciate when you give it to us like this, so that when we read them, we know exactly why we're changing them. I had two questions. One is, I make the assumption that everything here that is in red is because something happened, maybe. And that's why you had to look at them. But I also wondered, some of them, it seemed like you weren't really changing it, you were just maybe making it better written or something. So I wondered who comes up with these suggestions? Do you have a committee? Is it just you in your office, or, I'm just curious for how the process comes about when you make these changes.
Yeah, ultimately, they come through the administrative office, Nick and I, although often we're made aware of a need to refine the language, usually by the library staff, so like Rose, the library supervisor, will kind of advise us, okay, this was unclear, this policy, we need to clarify that, or hey, we might want to get a policy for this other thing. And then sometimes along the way, we realize the verbiage could be tweaked to just be a little clearer. And so it's kind of a combination of those things, but they ultimately all come through the administrative office, and then eventually we also bring them by the Library Commission. Again, they're generally,
Yeah, I didn't have
We
any
encounter
objection to
situation.
it, but I just wondered about that.
And yes, things that like, oh, sorry, am I allowed to?
Sure, yeah.
Sure.
Things like the difference between entering the library without wearing shoes and not wearing shoes in the library. Oh, yeah, there's a reason that
The
we make that
library
change.
is now
It's
closing.
because people come in with shoes on and they take them off.
The
So
library will be open again tomorrow.
ignore,
at
ignore
12
the voice. No pressure.
Yes, we just want to make sure that the way the policies are written, it's fair, it's to everybody, very clear. You know, if there's ever any, you know, sort of room for interpretation or misinterpretation, we try to just tighten it up so that it's really clear and fair for everybody.
Right. So the one that I guess doesn't surprise me, but assuming it makes some sense, removing the cell phone. You know,
Yeah, actually. could you
does
pull
that
back
does that now get rolled into the disturbing others, the sort of general?
That's it, exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm using the phone.
I
Yeah.
think we used
Yeah.
to, we used to call it out when it wasn't very common. But now it's very common for people to talk quietly on a cell phone, or maybe to take a Zoom meeting or conduct business virtually. It's become much more of a regular thing. And as long as they're not disturbing others and their ability to use the library, then that's allowed. So we took that out because, yeah, we don't need to call it out
That
anymore.
makes sense.
Well, there you go.
I
Um,
spotted a typo, Sean.
oh, we'll be back next month.
Oh, there's still that.
So I believe we are now on item E3, Library Commission tentative agenda calendar.
Actually, I'm sorry, we're going, there's another informational item, E2, which is about advisory body recruitment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So a quick intro on this. It's time for the advisory body recruitment. It comes every year. It closes on April 7th this year. And just for your information, I put in the staff report that there are 2 library commission positions opening up. And if you look on the city's website, or you can look by clicking through on that attachment B, it has the terms for all of the library commissioners, so you can know whether your term is coming to an end. If you'd like to reapply, we would absolutely encourage you to reapply for a position.
You don't have that option.
But we
Good.
are closing. I know there's still a meeting going on here. but-
So we're almost done. So here we are, E3, tentative agenda calendar for the Library Commission.
And if you just give me a second here, I'll pull this up so that we can take a look at it. Apologies. Ashley is so much faster than me. She's still on. Okay, here we go.
So I do have some commentary on this one, which is, first of all,
Why did you do that?
I don't know if you can zoom a little bit, but so this meeting's a special meeting in part because of just scheduling and everything. I wanted to make sure the Library Commission has a library focused only meeting prior to the meeting later this month, which is a joint meeting with the Parks and Recreation Commission about the MPCC naming process and the program. Now, I do want to mention, though, on February 22nd, the Parks and Recreation Commission, which is sort of the body, the advisory body in the city's naming policy that makes the recommendation to city council for naming facilities. So they had a study session on February 22nd, but that was the same week that the power outages impacted many people throughout Menlo Park. It's just widespread. So the decision was kind of made right before that meeting by the city manager and consulting with some city council members, and then announced during the meeting that that whole process was going to be extended, you know, another 4 weeks, just because there could have been some residents who the power was out, they couldn't zoom in, they couldn't come to the meeting. So I know initially the naming process was laid out to have the kind of a 4-week public comment period, culminating in this joint meeting on March 22nd. But that's not going to happen. We're going to extend that just to make sure because of the power outages. So Still having the joint meeting on March 22nd, Library Commission and Parks and Recreation Commission. It will be at the Bellhaven Branch Library, but it'll be kind of a redo of the naming process discussion, but we'll also dive into programming. And then I just want to call out that we may want to consider having another joint meeting in April of the Library Commission and Parks and Recreation Commission, because that's when that recommendation on the naming would be made, and the city council did ask that both commissions do that together. So take that April date with a grain of salt. And actually it would be helpful to understand if the commission's open to doing another joint meeting in April as well as March, just to kind of round out that process. And I think that date's like April 26th, if it were to be aligned with the Parks and Recreation Commission schedule.
Fourth Wednesday of April.
So
Yeah,
then we would do 2 meetings in April or just that one?
I think that would be up to you. You could do
could.
both, or you could just do the one joint meeting.
Okay. Are we deciding on that now?
It would be good to get a sense of that since the whole
Oh,
commission's
okay.
here, if possible. So that Wednesday would be Wednesday, the 26th. Right, so it'd be a week and a half after April 17th. I think that joint meeting would probably need to be on April 26th because the naming process was such that there's certain length of public comment period and all of that.
Okay. So potentially the meeting would change from the 17th to the 26th, so Monday to Wednesday.
Would we then be discussing all of these bullet points in a joint session?
Probably not.
Are these things, is there any urgency with those things that we would need to discuss them in April?
I think the main one that is really library commission specific is your work plan. I think
And
the
that-
other topics certainly are relevant to both commissions. So it's just that the work plan.
And the work plan would probably be better to discuss with the new commission,
Wait until May, perhaps. for
like
that
when you
one.
have new commissioners,
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great
makes more
suggestion.
sense.
Mhm.
So I would propose a single meeting in April. And it be the joint one, if that's okay. So,
I'm wondering, I mean, I feel like we're having the meeting on the 22nd is their meeting day, so I'm wondering why the next meeting isn't on our meeting day.
I think it's because the Parks and Rec Commission has sort of already committed to meeting at the Bellhaven Branch Library.
I mean, we could meet at their location.
The naming process, no, this is a great question. So it's a good opportunity to explain. So the naming process has been like announced pretty substantially throughout the Bellhaven neighborhood in particular, with postcards, bilingual, mailed to every resident of the neighborhood that actually bear these dates.
Oh, with that date? Okay. That
Yeah,
makes
so that's
sense.
why sticking to the dates, if at all possible, would be preferred.
I think it's a swell date.
I think my attendance is iffy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
what
late
is
April.
the date?
April 26th,
So it'd be
a
Wednesday.
Wednesday night.
Okay.
And so just putting it out there with a Monday, because Monday's your typical meeting date. So the April date, because that's part of the extended process, hasn't been advertised specifically. So I was referring to the March date.
Ah.
So the Monday is the 24th of April. That would still be 4 weeks after the March Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. I think April 17th is too soon, but April
Right.
24th, which is the Monday, so I'm seeing some heads nod, like maybe that's a discussion to have with the PRC, because I think in the past you have kind of rotated, we'll do Monday one time and then we'll do Wednesday the next time, so. I think I'm sort of
That'll be cool.
seeing that,
I'm still getting,
no,
maybe moving.
That week,
Yeah.
that'd be back.
okay.
Mondays like Mondays or Wednesdays are fine with me. Do you have,
Same to me.
are some
Yeah,
of you feeling like you don't have availability on a Wednesday? You
I
prefer to do
mean,
Monday?
I can make it work. The Monday is easier, but. Make it work.
So it sounds like I think we have a general agreement on the joint meeting on the 26th of April. At the Bellhaven.
So
facility.
both meetings are gonna be at the Bellhaven Library.
That's
Yeah.
correct, and I'll send out lots of reminders to check and to remind you, because they're out of the ordinary for this commission. You know, you sort of have the groove of third Mondays in your brain. So anytime we do something that's out of that groove, I want to make sure that I'm not tripping you up. Probably exhaustively, and I apologize for my many emails.
All right. Did we have to talk about any other changes on the dates of the calendar, or are we good otherwise?
I think I heard earlier that you wanted to hear about the collection development policy, to take another look at that. So that will probably come up in probably May at this point. Also we'll see. The April, we'll talk, and that sort of chair, vice chair preview, which I can write up as an informational item for April, just so you guys have a heads up on who's coming up next in the rotation. And then the work plan, pushing that to May.
So just to clarify, we are meeting not on April 17th, but April 26th at Bellhaven at 6:30.
That's what it sounds like, yes. And we are meeting later this month for a joint meeting, March 22nd, which is a Wednesday in Bellhaven.
And when will we get the agenda packets for these two events?
They should come out the week before, the Thursday before is when we try to get them out. So that would be Thursday next week.
I know the naming controversies have, I mean, any meeting, public meeting that I've been at where this is a topic have been really lively, so I expect that would.
We've had a lot of really good input from the community at the first meeting on January the 22nd. So,
And on February 22nd, even in the midst of power outages, there were about 30 people in
Yeah,
person.
that's a lot of people.
I think Commissioner Lee had a question.
I do. So when our meetings are at Bellhaven, I haven't been to a meeting at Bellhaven, and so I'm curious about where they are.
At the library.
At the current library at the
that's
school.
correct. We
Yes.
basically clear out the main floor.
Great,
We've
so-
done that before.
Yes, yes.
A long time ago.
Yes, Lothi's many years ago, actually.
Yeah.
Years. Okay, thank you.
All right, very good. So I think we're done with E3. So now we're up to F, Commissioner reports, individual commissioner reports. Would any commissioner like to make a short report out on items of interest to the entire commission? I'm not hearing any. I think can I do the adjournment?
Yes. you
Okay,
can.
good. Adjournment, the next meeting of the Library Commission will be a joint meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission on Wednesday, March 22nd, in person at the Bellhaven Branch Library and with public participation in person and by Zoom. Meeting is adjourned at, right, 8:09 Pacific Standard Time. Yippee. Have a good evening,
Thank you,
everybody.
Commissioners. Thank you for everyone participating online.
There you go.
I'm really